Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gents. Episode 9 review is here of House of the Dragon. And holy shit, it delivers once again. So before we go any further, guys, it goes without saying this is going to contain huge spoilers for the episode. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you come back and tune in at a later time. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we start off episode 9 called The Green Council. So the green in this, if you haven't worked out, is obviously based on the High Towers. It's their house colour, kind of like Quidditch and Harry Potter and, you know, sports day at school. But we're getting into the council straight away. We get a really eerie opening to the episode where we see lots of dust, carnage and ash. It's a sign of things to come because our Lord King Viserys is now unfortunately dead. So my fears were true. At the end of episode 8, he pegs it. He's done. And we open up this episode with what looks like the aftermath of a battle. We see the throne room all covered in ash. We see empty council meetings. We see empty sort of, you know, towers, chambers. We skim through King's Landing and the Red Keep. And it kind of reminded me of The Long Night, especially with the music that you've got in the background, the sort of harrowing piano. And then we see a little sneaky child sneaking a message to a handmaiden, who then passes this message on to Alicent. She looks at the message, looks at the maiden and says, "Are you sure?" And she says, "Yes, he saw it with his own eyes." So obviously secrets are being passed, little spiders are working their magic. We then see Otto, who asks Alicent who knows. So she's obviously gone to Otto, given the message, whatever was on this scroll. At this point we can't see what it is. And she says, "No one apart from my maiden, me, and obviously the spy." Now, Otto at this point is saying, you know, we need to keep this to ourselves. We can't let this get out to anyone. And he says also that we need to fulfill what the king wished for. Because Alicent at this point says, the king has wished for Aegon to be the king. And now he's dead. So Viserys is kaput. Alicent is now convinced, as we saw at the end of episode 8, that Viserys thinks and wished for Aegon to be on the throne. That is not what was going on. He was all delirious on milk of the poppy, and he was actually thought in his brain that he was speaking to his daughter Rhaenyra, and she wasn't there. So Alicent's got it all twisted. She's convinced this is what Viserys wants. She's still staying true to herself as well, guys. She's still staying pure. She's not swayed away from being a good and just queen. She hasn't sort of done this out of malice. She hasn't twisted his words. She genuinely thinks that that's what his final wishes are, and he's trying to relay this to Otto, and Otto's trying to use it for his own means, as he has done from the beginning of the series, really, putting the strings on Alicent and getting her to do what's right for the family name and make sure that the line succeeds. So we then jump to a council meeting where we see Alicent, Otto, Master of Coin, Master of Ships. They're all stood in, sort of sat around a meeting room in the main chamber, and they're talking about who's going to ascend the throne, the current issues now that Viserys has died, and they're all basically saying that Aegon should be the one. That's what the final wishes of the king were. Alicent confirms this. There's a couple amongst this group who are absolutely against Aegon becoming king. They feel that Alicent is just saying this to her own means and trying to fulfill her wishes of her father, the Hand of the King, Otto. They're not buying it. They think, you know, Rhaenyra is still the true Targaryen. She's the one that is the daughter of Viserys, and she should get the throne as promised by Viserys when he was in his full-bodied form, when he was able, when he was healthy. So there's a couple of them amongst the ranks here that are absolutely against this idea. They're also discussing where the gold should go, where the army should be positioned, what they should do about Rhaenyra and Daemon. We then see a little bit of an argument between, I think it's the Master of Coin and Criston, and they have a little to do. Criston says shut up and pushes his head down, and the Master of Coin gets his head impaled on something that's sticking up off the top of the desk. It was one of those moments where it was true Game of Thrones. You didn't expect it to happen. The poor guy got impaled by what I assume was a coin, a pen of some sort, I don't know. But it was just one of those holy shit sort of moments.
I care not. I will have no part. Down!
That's gotta hurt! It's gotta hurt! Hurt!
And then they all just carry on. Alicent's got her sort of head in her hands thinking, what is going on? Absolute carnage. And then they all discuss casually as this guy's just been impaled on the table what is going to happen next. So already we're seeing issues here. We're already seeing this tension amongst the ranks, even amongst the Kingsguard, amongst the loyal advisors of the crown. They're all already breaking ranks. Some of them are loyal to Viserys and his original vow that Rhaenyra should take the throne, but some of them are understandably following Alicent through fear, following the wishes of the queen or queen consort, because she is basically saying, if you don't go with what I'm saying, this is what, you know, Viserys wanted, and she does genuinely believe that you are treasonous to the crown and you should be dealt with as such. Basically, we then see Alicent talking about Daemon and Rhaenyra and saying that they wouldn't bend the knee, because Otto says we need to sort of stamp down this claim to the throne. We need to make sure that our true king is on the throne, no one else is a threat to him, i.e. he's talking about Aegon. And he says one of the things that we have to worry about is Rhaenyra and Daemon. They are the one true threat to this claim. They could stop us, it could cause a war, it could cause a riot. We need to cause steadiness amongst the people and make sure that everyone is on side, basically. So he's saying all this to Alicent, and Alicent's like, nah, they're not going to do that. This is Daemon and Rhaenyra we're talking about. They're not going to bend the knee. And the council discusses potentially killing them off. Alicent's like, whoa, 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 take a step back. We're not doing that. We're not going to go forward and live out the same problems that we've done in the past. We need to treat this differently. Whereas Otto's like, no, I think we need to kill him off. This is an attack on your son's lineage. This is an attack on our house, attack on our future, an attack on the king itself, basically. So he's using that old chestnut already as an excuse to sort of roll out his means and roll out his plans to get rid of them. So tries to put that seed in Alicent's head. She says no and says, let's do this amicably. There's another guy, I think it's one of the Kingsguard, that says, I'll carry out the task for you, my lord, and all that. He says, I'm going to go and kill blah, blah, blah. I'll kill Daemon. I'll do what you want me to do. Alicent's like, no, shut up, and threatens to send him to the wall. Also asks for the Kingsguard to go out and find Prince Aegon, now to be King Aegon. Go and find him. He's disappeared. No one knows where he is. Since Viserys has died, he's not been seen. So there's a mass search at this point for Aegon to be found. Kingsguard, there's people amongst the advisors that are looking for him. They're using the little spiders amongst the spies that Varys controls. They've been sent out to try and find him as well. So there's loads of different people. We also see Aemond going to try and find him as well. Mr. Eyepatch Sephiroth is back, and he is sort of keen to get hold of him as well. Already you can see that there's going to be an absolute kick-off of a fight. There's going to be an absolute mental mess, because now, all of a sudden, now that Viserys is gone, this is going to be an absolute vow for the throne. You're going to get this from all sides, all houses. It's just going to be absolutely nuts, and you can feel that throughout the whole episode, especially this opening bit. We go through the dust, and the dust settles from Viserys' death. Very, very sad. Great acting as well. Hopefully Paddy Constantine gets an absolute Emmy&a-half for this, because his delivery of King Viserys' character was absolutely brilliant all the way through. So really, really good. But as predicted, he is going to be off our screens now by the end of this season. So hopefully the acting continues to be as stellar as it has been without him there. But anyway, they're going to look for Aegon. They go all around the city trying to find what's going on. There's one Kingsguard as well that says, I'm not being a part of this. I'm not being a part of this witch hunt for Daemon and Rhaenyra. They're the true Targaryens. I don't know why we're doing what we're doing. But it literally hangs up his cloak and says, I won't serve you until the true queen has been ascended. So this causes, again, distension and a split between opinions. Alicent wants to try and deal with this as peacefully as possible. Otto, on the other hand, is trying to say to her, look, this is not how the Targaryens wage war, and it's not how they try and deal with each other. You have to deal with it almost violently. You have to deal with it with a heavy hand. So we're going to have to hang traitors. We're going to have to hang people, behead people that don't follow us, that don't follow the rule. Because ultimately what we're saying is Aegon's going to be king. And if they don't follow what we say, we are the hand of the king. We are the words of the king. And they should be hanged as such. So Alicent's like, oh my God. But ultimately he's right. We know he's right. Otto has had a hidden agenda through the whole season, but he does speak some truth. So the manhunt begins for Aegon. We then see Princess Rhaenys, who is locked in her chamber. She can't get out. She's fuming, let me out, let me out. We then see Aemond looking for the prince. There's a whole wide city search going on. We flip between sort of mercenary characters. There's 2 twin characters that are trying to look for him as well. Kingsguard are out there. The family's out there looking for him. So everyone is trying to find where Aegon is. Otto asks Bannerman to swear to Aegon as well, which is from the previous houses who have swore allegiance to Viserys and House Targaryen. Some bend the knee and some don't. There's a particular house that says, absolutely not, I'm not going to give up what I've sort of swore oath to before. I still swear oath to House Targaryen, and in my eyes, the only true Targaryen is Rhaenyra, and she needs to be on the throne. So Otto kind of glances at Alicent, looks down, and then it just cuts to another scene, and you just know that guy is not making it through the next scene. We then see a really weird and twisted, almost gladiator type scene where there's loads of kids in a fighting pit. So some of the people within the city are using kids almost as entertainment. They're throwing them into the pit and they're getting them to fight each other. And there's like some weird, creepy blokes watching, putting bets on it and trying to basically get some entertainment out of it. And they're just fighting each other. So it's essentially a fighting pit, but they use children. Then we see people looking for Aegon. It's flicking between the fighting pit and Aegon. We then see Aemond, who says he should be next as Aegon is not fit to rule. He's having a discussion with one of the guards that he's with. The guard kind of looks at him as if to say, well, you know, it's your brother. And Aemond's like, no, Aegon is a little shit, basically. He's not fit to rule. He hasn't got the passion. He hasn't got the sort of virtue. He's not got the right morals to be a king. We then see a lord go in to basically warn Rhaenyra. Gets caught on the way out by Varys and his spies. So he's just leaving King's Landing. He's just about to leave the Red Keep. He's definitely going to relay a message to Rhaenyra and explain what's happened. Rhaenyra and Daemon are not in this episode. They're nowhere to be seen. My hunch is they're in Dragonstone because at the end of episode 8, there was a to-do with the kids. And Rhaenyra said, it's okay, well, I'll take them to Dragonstone. And Alicent was like, oh, really? You know, you've only just got here. Why don't you... You know, it's a shame that your dad's going to miss you and stuff like that. And she kind of turned around and said, yeah, no worries, I'll come back on... I'll take them over to Dragonstone and I will ride on Dragon back. I'll come back. But when they're not actually in this episode. So what makes me think is that they don't actually know Viserys is dead, or they're purposely hiding, biding their time, building up a rebellion to come back and know that they're going to get challenged for the claim to the throne because of the events of episode 7 and 8. So I think that's what's happening. But anyway... This lord gets caught trying to deliver a message to them, gets caught by Varys' guys. We then see Alicent cleaning the king, or ex-king now, R.I.P. Lord Viserys. She takes the crown off of him, and he's sort of banded in what he assumes is some sort of wrap to just keep his body intact, stop him smelling, all that kind of stuff. And she's genuinely upset. She's led down by the corpse, she's crying. And I think Alicent is one of these characters in the show that I didn't expect to be so quite emotionally attached to. She's had an amazing story arc. She started off as a bitter, almost childish type of, you know, woman. But then you've got Otto in the background pulling the strings. He's trying to mold her into the queen he wants her to be. But Alicent is very much trying to stay true to herself. But she can't help going towards the dark side a little bit, towards being a little bit Cersei-like. Because of the things that all her friends, all the people that she confided in, i.e. Rhaenyra, has absolutely done her over, and she can't trust anybody. Then she takes the crown off of Viserys, tidies him all up, he's all good, he's bandaged and packed, ready to go back to Amazon. And then Alicent is with Rhaenys, and they're discussing the next steps. Rhaenys says, how dare you lock me in here? And Alicent was like, look, we're trying to do a bit of crowd control, we don't want you getting hurt, you're precious to us, blah, blah, blah. And they discuss the next steps. They argue a little bit over the throne. They argue a little bit over the strength of the houses and what's to come. Rhaenys has a very strong view of what the House Valyrian should have. And Alicent, understandably, is like, look, I'm carrying on the wishes of my late husband, the king. This is what we need to do. We need you on side. You've got power. I will promise you more power if you support us and you don't form a mutiny and a rebellion, basically. Rhaenys kind of... gives her the sort of politician's answer. She doesn't really answer the question. She just says, well, I'm here to do what I'm here to do, but my house is just as important as yours. You're not going to start flexing the name on me now. and you know, if there's going to be a coronation, I'm going to have something to say about it. So fair enough. So Alicent also says we may not rule, but guide the men that do. And she says, whilst we're not in a position of power completely, i.e. we're not queens, we're consorts, we're princesses, there's kings above us, we can absolutely bend the ear of those people that we're close to and actually rule our respective houses and kingdoms the way that we want. So that kind of plants a seed in Rhaenys's head. We then move on to a scene where Otto's speaking to a woman who is in the... I think she was in the end of the last episode. I think she's House Martell of some sort, but from sort of Dorne area. And he's talking to her, and it's clear now that the messages have been relayed from Otto to her this whole time. So in the last episode, we saw a glimpse of this woman. There was a spy that was delivering a message to her, and she was like, ah, okay, so the castle's busy at the minute, and she knew everything that was going on within the walls of the castle without actually being inside. It's because she had a spy relaying the information to her. It's confirmed it's this lady. So I think she's from House sort of Dorne, or she's from the Martell area. You know, she's from Dorne. We get the idea that she's building up her clan. She's building up her side of the power. She's using some of the big players in the Game of Thrones to gain more soldiers, more supplies, but also to get her name out there a little bit more. So she's slowly coming in sneakily under the radar as another chess piece. So we see that. Then we see Aegon. He is found by the twin brothers. There's two like twins that are hunting him down. I think they're part of either the Kingsguard or that they're mercenaries that have been sent out to try and look for him. He's hidden underneath the tomb of Viserys. So there's a nice little shrine going on for Viserys, and Aegon is hidden underneath it, cowering away. So they're stood in the throne room. They're talking to each other, and they hear a noise. They open up the bottom of the tomb, and there is Aegon cowering inside. So they pull him out. Criston then finds them at the right time. He comes in. They have a little fight because they don't know the agenda of these two twins. They don't know if they're going to kill him, if they're going to take him to someone else, or they're going to use him as ransom. So the idea is that they get Aegon into the throne room. They put him on the throne. He's the king. He can't be touched. He's a lot safer. There's Kingsguard, etc. But at the minute, he's a little bit of a duck stuck in the middle of a very big pond, and there's a lot of people pointing their rifles at him. So they're all trying to grab him. Criston finds him as well. They have a little fight with the twins. We then see Aemond, who, aka Sephiroth, who comes in, tackles Aegon down to the ground and says, you know, you don't deserve this. I should be king. You're just a little weasel, blah, blah, blah. I'm the one that's sort of honed the real, true dragon. I took the dragon off of our cousins. And Aegon's like, I don't want the throne, I don't want it, you know, and he turns into an absolute little weasel. He just needs to stick to playing with his skin pistol a little bit, I think.
Give your meat a good old rub. That's it. Nice and hot. Hot and spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
He's not fit to be king whatsoever. But anyway, he has to be let go. He doesn't want the crown. And Criston sort of steps in, pulls him up and says, come on, the queen awaits. And then Aemond's kind of like, oh, I nearly had my minute. He was going to hand it over to me. So I think there's going to be even distension amongst the brothers. I think once Aegon's been in position of king, he is going to go back to his old ways. He's going to go back to being selfish, back to being a little brat, essentially. And Aemond isn't going to stand for it. He's more about the house itself. He's more about showing strength and sticking true to the virtue of being a king. And he knows Aegon hasn't got it in him. So he was that close to getting Aegon to hand it over. Aegon sniveled his way out of it, and Criston saved his ass. So he gets pulled towards the queen. We then see a scene where Otto and Alicent are talking about the tactics of what to do, and she admits that Otto has had a hand in what she thinks now and how she actually thinks on a level as a queen consort. She openly says, you controlled me, you said all this stuff, and whilst it goes down the path that she knew the whole time, and she explains that she knew what he was doing the whole time, she also says it's true, but also says, but I need to stay true to Viserys. And Otto's like, look, we don't need to do this anymore. We don't need to speak like this. He's not here. We don't have to hold up our bargain. We can do this. We can do what we want now. We've got your son is, you know, my grandson, your son is next in line. He's going to be sat on the throne any minute. We don't have to stick to anything that we've said. So they have a little bit of a to-do. We then see a scene where Varys is skulking away in his room, and Alicent sort of walks up behind him. He says that he's found something Alicent should know, and she's like, tell me, and he's like, you need to sort of, you know, play ball with me a little bit first, and I'm kind of like, what's going on there? He then says his father's found Aegon, and they've got him in, you know, they brought him in, it was them that got to him first. Talks about the secrets and other things that have been found around the city. So this is where Alicent's getting her information from. She's using Lord Varys. It's ironic that this guy's called Lord Varys because it's the same Lord Varys in Game of Thrones. It's the same role almost. He's feeding through those whispers. He's feeding through the information. He's got little spies.
No one weeps for spiders or whores. I have friends across the sea who could help her.
She won't leave. I've told him this is a dangerous place so many times she no longer believes it.
Your father has promised to hang the next whore he finds you with. Have you ever known your father to make an idle threat?
We then get a little bit of a foot fetish going on. Alicent gets her feet out and the guy's kind of all into it. And as she's sort of learning some of the stuff he's telling her, she sort of pulls her gown up and you slowly see elements of her feet and her legs, and the guy's like loving it, lip smacking and everything. It gets really weird. There's a bit where one of the maids is a key spy for Otto. So one of the things that he came into the scene saying is there's something you really need to know. And he ultimately explains here that after much feet showing, that Otto has a maid that is actually in Alicent's service. It's a very close maid of hers that he's using as a spy. So in the same way that he used Alicent to spy on Viserys and relay information about what was going on in the kingdom, what his plans were, his battle tactics, all that kind of stuff, getting to know him emotionally and what he's like as a person, as a father, as a husband. Otto is using this maid in exactly the same way, but against his own daughter. So again, who's really in charge here? And then he kind of says they need to be taken out of the head. They need to be treated like bees. If we kill the queen, we kill the head of the nest, if you like. All the other bees will fly around aimlessly. Alicent's kind of like, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure what we need to do. And as she walks away, gets put away. He pulls out his sausage and starts having a go with it. So
Yeah, boy.
we then see a scene where Rhaenys is escorted by some of the King's Guard and says that she won't let the treachery stand. We then see a scene where we're all entering the throne room. The bells are tolling. All the public are coming into the throne room. They're awaiting the coronation of the king. And we see some of the traitors hanging from the rafters. So some of the previous houses that wouldn't pledge themselves to the new king, that wouldn't let go of the old oath to Viserys, Otto's treated that as treachery to the crown. So understandably, they're now swinging from the rafters on a piece of rope. And the King's Guard are saying to Rhaenys, you know, we need to get you to a ship. We need to get you to safety. They're escorting her out, and there's a massive crowd being pushed down the street. There's a load of sort of hustle and tussle going on. We get the opening scenes of the coronation. So we see a pillow out in the throne room. The crown's being placed down. Kristen's there, Alicent's there, the Hand of the King's there. They're all stood there, Aemond, awaiting for Aegon to come into the throne room and to start the coronation. So we then see Alicent and Aegon talking about what Viserys wanted. As they're sort of heading towards the throne room, Aegon says, you know what, my father hated me, didn't want me to be king. He knew what I was about. Alicent was like, no, you didn't know what he said to me before he died. You were the true vision. You were the true heir. He changed his mind, and Aegon's just laughing his head off. He's like, you've got it wrong. So he knows Viserys better than Alicent does, and it's an amazing piece of writing, because all this time Alicent has been true to Viserys, but it just goes to show she didn't know him really on any emotional level whatsoever, and they just played their part. So Aegon's saying, you're absolutely out of your mind, you've got it wrong, and Alicent's like, no, you little shit, you're going to do it. This, don't, you know, disgrace his name, don't disgrace what he's trusted you with. And Aegon's kind of like, no, it's not happening. So he reluctantly agrees to do it. She then shows him the Valyrian steel dagger that Viserys had and says, look, this is it now. This is what you need to be. She almost wants that courage, that power and that presence from Viserys to pass down to Aegon. We know it's not going to happen based on what we've seen so far. He's just a little turd and it's not going to go any further towards being like Viserys. But she thinks if she hands him this dagger, all of a sudden he's going to look at it and be like, yeah, I'm going to step up. But it's not Aegon at all. So she tries then to teach him about ruling with dignity and pride, and says you need to be strong, you need to think about your house, you need to think about your lineage, what people will think of you. You need to rule with power, but also peace. You need to be a good king, learn from your father, all that kind of stuff. Listen to people around you. And she's trying to give him advice as to, you know, what's to come when he does step up as king. We then cut to the bells tolling. Very reminiscent of that scene in Game of Thrones where Daenerys goes absolutely AWOL and flamethrowers King's Landing. All the main players are at the front. So you got Kristen, Alicent, the Sons, Otto stood there, and then all the crowds coming in. And as they sort of filled in, we've got a line of Kingsguard are sort of marching in, and then they turn to face each other, swords up. And as Aegon walks through, they do this nice little piece where they lower their swords behind him and escort him to the throne, basically. The Maester at this point is giving out a nice prayer. Aegon makes it to the front of the line, and he anoints Aegon with, you know, the smith, the son, the father, the mother. Starts talking about all that, and we see Rhaenys leaving in the background. So at this point, what I thought was going to happen, I knew there was going to be a dragon bursting in, but I thought what was going to happen at this point is Daemon or Rhaenyra was going to burst in. They were going to Dracarys a few people, and the main characters were going to make it out. Because obviously, if you've read the books, you know who dies, you know who marries who, you know what happens. But I thought Rhaenyra or Daemon or both were going to burst in with their dragons. I thought Dracarys was going to be laid down, the smackdown was going to hit, and most of the people in that room was going to be wiped out, as if to say, hell no, no coronation on our watch. But we see Rhaenys leaving, and I kind of thought, well, why is she leaving? Is she going to warn Daemon and Rhaenyra? Does she know where they are? I was trying to figure out what was going on there. This is all still going on in the background. We then see Kristen picking up the crown, places it on Aegon's head, and I was like, damn. I thought someone was going to step in, either cut Kristen's hand off. I thought the dragons were going to burst in and actually stop the crown being placed on his head before he's officially coronated, and that was what was going to cause the war, the riot, and the rebellion. But the crown gets placed on his head. He officially becomes king. Everyone's like, hell, the new king, and says he's the true heir. Aegon doesn't look confident at all about it. The Maester's like, yeah, this is the true heir, and Otto's giving a little speech about, this is the guy you want to back. If you back anyone else other than this guy, it's treason. Hail the true king, Aegon Targaryen. And everyone's like, hey, cheering. And then through the cheering, through the attention, basically, Aegon feels a little bit of a kick. He feels a little bit of a spark. He doesn't feel that pride, that passion that a king should feel, but he just likes the attention. He likes the fact that people are cheering for him, and you almost see this glint in his eye. It's acted amazingly. He just has this little glint in his eye where he thinks, think of what I could get away with as a king. He's an absolute asshole, and he's just going to use that to his advantage now. He's going to have loads of wenches, loads of whores. He's going to beat off most of the day. God knows what else he's going to get up to, and you just see that he's got that moment of realization in his eye, like, holy shit, I can do what I want here.
Yeah, I'm Stex, and I don't use protection. It's my hot body. I'll do what I want. I don't go to school and I kill people. Whatever, I do what I want.
And it's all about that, not about what a king should feel. He starts to feel great, raises his sword, he's like cheering, you know, he's doing the whole power pump with his sword. Alicent looks super happy and starts clapping and says, you know, this could be the start of something new. Just as we're about to feel excited and feel happy, and I thought it was going to end at this point, boom, the wall gets bursted through, in comes a dragon. This guy absolutely breathing the place out, showing his nice gnarly teeth, going ballistic. People are screaming, trying to run out. The Kingsguard are shutting the door shut, and it's the ones that are loyal to Daemon, and I absolutely love this bit. I thought, why are they shutting the door? This is the Kingsguard. They should be letting people out. Otto's shouting at the back, let them out, open the door. And the Kingsguard are closing the door, trying to keep the people in. And I realised these are the cloaks that are loyal to Daemon. And I thought, what a nice touch. And I didn't realise it until after the episode. But anyway, you see the dragon rocking up, walks right up to the throne room, gets right into Alicent and the new king Aegon's face. Aegon's cowering behind his mum. Alicent's like, please don't hurt us. Like, they're cowering down. Otto can't believe it. There's fear on their faces. You can see the silhouette of someone sat on the dragon. I thought it was Rhaenyra, but as it edges closer, you see that it's Rhaenys. So she went to get her dragon. She's burst into the room, and she's just stamping her authority, basically saying, don't fuck with me. There's a bit of a standoff. They're both sort of looking at each other. She's giving it the glance and the stare, and then Alicent's looking back as if to say, where's this going sort of thing. Rhaenys looks back and she's quivering with like anger. You can see the emotion on her face. She's been through a lot. Her husband's been killed. Her son's been murdered. Her house name has been pissed on. And she's looking at Alicent, and you're just looking at it thinking, she's going to say it. Dracarys, come on, just say it, just say it. We know that if she did that and wiped out all those people in that throne room, we wouldn't have another show. We wouldn't have this going on, and they would have ended at season 1. It also would have pissed all over the lore. So she doesn't say it, but we do, for a second at least, really do believe that she's going to, and it's nice to just feel that excitement, even if you know what's going to happen, you know who dies, who survives because you've read the books. It was just nice to experience that, and the way it was written is beautifully delivered. The actors were on par. The writing in this scene was fantastic, and I thought, holy shit, she's gonna say it, and then realized after, of course she's not. We're not going to get another show. We're not going to get another season. It's not going to continue. If they all die in that throne room, it's over. What have we got to watch? So of course she's not going to do it, but it was just that anticipation and that feeling that it gave you was brilliant. So she then sort of gives her a little nod to Alicent. She turns around and then flies off out into the open. Alicent just breathes a sigh of relief, and Aegon looks like he's seen a ghost. Absolutely shit himself, terrified. And then it ends. So I assume now in the next episode, Rhaenys is going to fly off to Daemon or Rhaenyra. It's not clear if she's going to go and warn them or if she's going to start a riot. I personally think she's going to warn them and say, look, this is what's happened. She's going to let the both sides fight, and then she's going to go in for the scraps. Her house is going to clean up after that. That's what I think is going to happen. But what a phenomenal episode, guys. Again, if I was to give this a rating, it's a solid 9 out of 10. The only thing that would have made it a perfect 10 out of 10 is probably just a little bit more drama, a little bit more intrigued. Would love to have seen Daemon in there. Would love to have seen Rhaenyra, but I understand why they didn't put them in this episode. It was all about Aegon's coronation. It was all about the feeling that Alicent and the Hightowers have moved up in the world. So this is their episode, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the acting was phenomenal. I thought the dialogue was brilliant. The way that they sort of go through their own character arcs, always putting their own emotion, their own agenda into what they're saying and how they're acting it out as well. We got some dragon action in this as well. So everything was here. There was drama, there was violence, there was foot fetishes. Everything that you want in a typical Game of Thrones episode is here, and I absolutely loved it. This show is absolutely sailing. This is the penultimate episode as well, guys, so we've only got one more until it's all done, but I cannot wait. They have already signed off on 3 or 4 seasons, I think it is, so we're definitely going to be getting more, and I cannot wait for it. So I think the way they've delivered the show started off a little bit slow at first, but it makes sense now why they did it. They were putting all the chess pieces in motion, building up the character arcs, building up the emotion, getting us attached to these people, getting us attached to their agenda, and really either hating them for the right reasons or loving them for the right reasons. And we've all got sides that we're picking now, who we're rooting to win. Even Rhaenys has got a very dynamic character. All the ones that are sort of playing just under the top league almost of top tier characters, all the main characters, I still got, you know, attachments to them. Aemond is a brilliant character as well. Reminds me heavily of Sephiroth, that bloody eye patch. But, you know, it's all going in the right direction. So I cannot wait for the next one. Please do join me for next week's review as well, guys. Leave a thumbs up if you do enjoy it, and I will see you again next week for the final episode.
I think I'm quite ready for another adventure.